You know that feeling, right? Where no matter what you get, what you achieve, it's just never quite enough? Well, we're going to dive into this incredible ancient story that gets right to the heart of that feeling, our endless desire for more.
Yeah, it's a feeling we all know for sure. You get that job you wanted, or the house, or the relationship you've been dreaming of, and for a little while, everything is perfect. But then, sure enough, some new desire just pops up out of nowhere. So, why does that happen? Well, this story we're looking at today has a pretty dramatic answer.
So, where does our story start? Well, you might think it's with some big, powerful king, but actually, it's with a quiet monk. His name was Ānanda, and he was the Buddha's closest disciple. And one day, while he was meditating, something just clicked. He had this massive realization, one that gets right to the very heart of what it means to be human.
So he goes to the Buddha with this. I mean, it's a simple idea, but it's also incredibly profound. He basically says, you know what, I've been thinking, and I've realized our greed, our desires, they can never, ever be satisfied. It's kind of a heavy thought, right? And that unsettling idea is the foundation for the whole story we're about to get into. And the Buddha, he just looks at him and says, you hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right. And to show Ānanda just how deep this truth really goes, he decides to tell a story. But this isn't just any old cautionary tale. This is a story from one of his own past lives. A story about a king who, you'd think, had absolutely everything. Okay, so let's meet this king. His name is Mandathu. And when I say king, I don't mean just any old ruler. No way. This guy was the literal definition of a perfect monarch. We're talking about a man who had already climbed to the very, very top of the ladder of worldly success. I mean, his level of perfection was almost mythical. Seriously, he ruled his home continent with complete justice. He had these legendary 7 treasures that only a universal ruler could have. We're talking things like a divine wheel, a wish-granting jewel, the whole shebang. On top of that, he had 1,000 powerful sons. So by any metric you can think of, this guy had it all, and then some. Just to give you a sense of his power, one day he just kind of wished for more treasure. And for 7 straight days, gold and jewels literally rained from the sky, filling up his palace. Think about that. Reality itself just seemed to bend to whatever he wanted. But here's the million-dollar question. Was that enough for him? Was he satisfied? You can probably guess the answer, of course not. One continent? That wasn't nearly enough. So he set his sights on the other 3 great continents of the ancient world. And the crazy part is, he didn't even have to fight. He would just show up, and the people would welcome him as their true king. Just like that, he became the ruler of the entire known world. All right, so think about it. You've conquered every single corner of the mortal world. What's next? Where does your ambition even go from there? Well, for King Mandathu, there was only one direction left to go, and that was up. Yep, he decided he wanted to check out the heavenly realm, the home of the gods themselves, which was ruled by their king, a deity named Sakra. And get this, his power was so immense that all he had to do was think about going there, and boom, he and his entire court were instantly transported to the heavens. Can you even imagine the kind of respect this guy commanded? He shows up in the court of the gods, and Sakra, the king of the heavens, doesn't just say hello. He gets up and offers Mandathu half of his own throne. I mean, this was a level of honor that no mortal had ever received. So there they are, sitting side by side, ruling the heavens together. And they looked so alike in all their divine glory that the other gods could only tell them apart by one tiny little detail. Because Mandathu was still technically mortal, he had to blink. That was it. This was the absolute peak. He was, for all intents and purposes, a living god. Okay, let's just recap. He had done what no human had even dreamed was possible. He ruled the entire world, and he was sharing a throne in heaven. So you can probably guess where this is going, can't you? For what felt like an eternity, he lived up there, among the gods, enjoying pleasures we probably can't even wrap our heads around. But eventually, that old familiar itch started to come back. That nagging feeling of dissatisfaction. He started to realize that, sharing power, well, it just wasn't the same as having all of it. And then it happened. The one single thought that brought the whole thing crashing down. He looked over at Sakra, his host, his equal, and this thought pops into his head. Why am I only getting half of this? I should just get rid of him and take the whole thing for myself.
And the very second that greedy thought formed in his mind, it was over. All the good karma, all the merit he had built up over a lifetime, gone. Just like that, in a flash. Everything he had gained, he lost. The fall was just as sudden and shocking as his rise had been.
In that one moment, his divine body just vanished. He was suddenly old, sick, his body filled with pain. He came crashing down from the heavens, landing back in his own palace, a frail, dying old man. All his treasures, all his power, everything he had ever worked for, it was all gone.
And as he was lying there on his deathbed, he gave his court one last order. He said, "Tell everyone my story. Let the whole world know that a man can conquer 4 continents, he can sit with the gods, and he can still die totally and completely unfulfilled, all because his desire was never satisfied." And this is where the Buddha brings it all home, with the final and most powerful part of the story. He finishes this epic tale of ambition, power, and ruin, and he turns and looks right at his disciple, Ānanda. And he delivers the knockout punchline. He says, "Ānanda, that king, that was me." Wow. So King Mandatu wasn't just some character in a story. It was the Buddha himself in a past life. He wasn't just teaching some abstract idea. He was sharing a deeply personal, painful memory, a lesson he had to learn the hardest way possible, over countless lifetimes.
So by telling his own story, the Buddha is showing us that it doesn't matter what the prize is, whether it's a shower of gold or a throne in heaven, all these external pleasures, they're temporary, they're fleeting, and ultimately they just lead to more suffering. A wise person sees this and just refuses to play the game. Real, lasting happiness isn't found in getting more stuff. It's found in the total freedom from wanting more stuff.
And that really leaves us with a pretty deep question to chew on, doesn't it? I mean, King Mandatu's story is obviously an extreme example, but it kind of holds up a mirror to our own lives. It really forces us to ask ourselves, if conquering the world and even ruling the heavens isn't enough to make you happy, then maybe, just maybe, we've all been looking for satisfaction in all the wrong places.